developer, it's always good that you get started with a classic UI, and then it is pretty much easy for you to understand the modern UI. Like say for example, you have all the links in a single in a single page, right, in classic UI, like the website admin and things like that. Whereas here you'll have to go into sites, and then you'll have to click on something else, and then you'll have to go there. So it's more of a wizard kind of a interaction here. So I'll go through even the modern UI, but for now we want our default screen to be the classic UI. Like the moment I type localhost 4502, it should take me to this particular screen. So how do I do that? So we will do that configuration change. So go to CRXDElite. So what is CRXDElite? From our yesterday's class, we learned that it is a UI for our repository, and apart from it acting as a user interface for our repository, it can also be used as an editor. When I say editor, it is a code editor, development environment. So hence the name CRX is our content repository extreme, and then development environment. D stands for development environment. It's here. Okay. So yeah. So our goal is, this is just a configuration. Our goal is to kind of change the default welcome screen to the classic UI. So go to CRXDElite, and here in CRXDElite, there is a search bar. Search for projects.html. Why projects.html? Because the moment I enter localhost 4502, if you observe, the moment I just enter localhost 4502, automatically it is appending projects.html. So just search for this projects.html in the repository. So there is basically a redirect happening. So here, so you need to look at a node called as route mapping servlet. So click on the third link. Automatically it will expand to that particular node, and here for this node we have a set of properties, and if you see, there is a property called as route mapping.target. So change that route mapping.target from projects.html to welcome.html. So when I type welcome, so now I've changed it. So double click on the value. You can enter any value you want, and then click on save. So this basically saves whatever change you make to the repository. So now let us test. When I enter localhost 4502, yeah, it's taking me to the classic UI screen. So this is what is expected, right? And another thing is that from the website console, what is website console? We also learned that website console is where all our web pages would be managed. When I say managed, the web page is created, edited, the content is put into the page and then published. So all of those comes under managing the web pages. So this console, the SiteAdmin, it's popularly called as SiteAdmin console or website console. So this SiteAdmin console is where all the pages would be created by the author. And here you can see all of the sites which come out of the box. So the moment you install CQ5, you would be seeing this particular, all these websites which come as part of the product, so that you can refer and look at these websites for reference. Okay. Okay, cool. So yeah. So now when I open one of the page, let's say for example, I generally I'd be referring to Geometrix demo site a lot to give examples and things like that. So we'll all look to this particular website, and English is the home page. So when I double click on English, you see that it is opening in, again it is opening in the modern UI. Even the pages are opened in the modern UI or the touch UI. So today we will see both in terms of editing a page, we will see both the classic UI as well as the modern UI. So but our default setting should be classic UI, because once you learn classic UI, it's very easy for you to cope up with the modern UI. So I mean, it's more, the classic UI is more, has more concepts for you to grasp than the touch UI or the modern UI. So what I'll do is I want to change this modern UI to classic UI. So how do I do that? If you observe the URL here, there is something called as editor.html. Just change this editor.html to CF hash. So this will take you to the classic UI. So this is how the classic UI looks, and it has a sidekick. So I'll explain each and every aspect within this editor. This editor is basically called as what you see is what you get editor, meaning whenever the author feels like changing something, he can change that, and whatever he feels like changing, whatever the author feels like changing, he can change that particular section, and that is what is actually being represented to the end users once this page is published. Okay, so now I manually changed the editor.html to CF hash, right? So I did the manual change from modern UI to classic UI. So you don't want to do that each and every time. Whenever you open a page, it should automatically open in classic UI. So for that, what you can do is go back to the dashboard or the welcome screen of the modern UI. So if you want to go back to the modern UI welcome screen, you just type projects.html after localhost 4502. And here you would have on the right corner, you have a user symbol. Click on the user symbol and click on the settings over here. And then you would be presented with option whether you want the authoring mode to be touch optimized, which is the modern UI. So basically modern UI is more touch optimized. So whenever authors want to create web pages on a tablet, right? So that is when they go with the modern UI. But if they're using a desktop or any other large screen, it's always they would prefer a classic UI. So here, go to the welcome screen of modern UI, and then in the preferences of the user, select classic and accept. So now when I open a page, it would always open in classic UI. If you see, how do you differentiate whether the page is in classic UI or touch UI? If you look at the editor's URL, the page editor's URL, if it's a touch UI or the modern touch optimized UI or a modern UI, it would have editor.html in between. If it's a classic UI, it would have CF hash in between. Okay, so that is the main difference. And by the look and feel, so the touch UI or the modern UI doesn't have a sidekick. It doesn't have a content finder here and things like that. Okay, so now there are three important aspects here which you need to look at. So one is something called as the content finder. So here, whatever you're seeing towards the left side of the screen is the content finder. So as the name suggests, it helps the author to find the content. What content? All the digital assets. Where are all the digital assets stored? From our learning yesterday, all the digital assets are stored under the digital asset manager, the DAM console. If I open up the DAM console, so here is where all our digital assets are stored. So what I will do is under digital assets, I will create a new folder, and I'll name this folder as training. And here I will go inside training and I will upload a new image file. So let's say here I'll create another folder and okay, no, not required. So I'll directly upload a new file here, a new image. So click on new, browse, and any one of the image you can upload. And once you upload that image, so this is the image which has been uploaded. And this image automatically would be available to the author in the page. So for example, here in the content finder, when I refresh this, so this is the new image which I uploaded. So this image is available for the author to drag and drop or use it in the page. So like this, not only images can be uploaded in the digital asset manager. So it can be a video, it can be any digital asset like a image, video, text file, scripts, and documents, Word documents, PDFs, and things like that, right? So there can be n number of documents or digital assets available. So if you see here, again, this content finder is has sub tabs here. So this is for the image. If you have some scripts, those scripts would be displayed in the second tab. If you have some documents, it would be displayed in the third tab. If you have some videos, it would be displayed automatically. It would be categorized and displayed in the video section, right? So let's say for example, if you have some video, so this is the video tab. So rest all of the tabs, they might not even use it. Okay, so the first aspect of the editor is the content finder. So content finder helps the author to find the content which is uploaded in the digital asset manager, right? And also if you
Here, yeah, I have a
observe,
question.
yeah,
So, Ajay, is there any scope or, I mean, all the assets are shown. If suppose I have multiple sites and there are a lot of images,
mhm.
so this DAM will always show all the images that are present in the this CQ.
You can configure it. So there is a configuration where you can configure only assets to show under training. So there is a configuration. So we just have to configure it. I'll let you know the configuration, but it's not a configuration which can be done here. So you will have to kind of so there is no UI for that configuration. So you'll have to come up with there is something called as the OSGI console. So there you will have to do some configuration where only digital assets for your particular site would be shown up here.
Okay.
I'll let you know the configuration. Okay. So yeah, and also if you observe the URL here, it says CF hash. CF stands for content finder. So if I remove the CF hash, then the content finder would also disappear. Okay. So let me just bring the CF hash back. Okay. So then the second aspect of the editor is the Sidekick. So if you see here, the Sidekick is mainly used for all the components which the AEM developer develops, like the image component, the table component, text and image, title component. So all of these components is what you as a CQ developer would be developing. And you would make those components be visible in the Sidekick so that the author, I as an author, can say, for example, I can drag and drop the image component here and I can add this particular image, right? So if I tomorrow, if the site requires, if this page requires for another image to be added, I can drag and drop that particular image there. So like this, you can, this component can be anything according to the business need. It can be a simple 2-column component. It can be an image component, can be a title heading component. And if you see, this is some carousel component and things like that, and header component, footer component. There can be a lot of other components which can be created. So we'll be creating a lot of components as part of the exercises. So there you will be understanding mostly how to create a component and how do you make that available here in the Sidekick so that the author can drag and drop the component. Okay, and the components can be grouped like like how Gaurav had a question as to how to isolate the digital assets as per the application. Here you can create your own group, like how we have a general group. You can create your own group such as training, and then all the components related to training web application would be can be displayed there so that it is organized. Okay, so the Sidekick allows the author to drag and drop all the components created by the developer. And the Sidekick also has other tabs like the page tab. So the page tab is basically the properties of a page. You can see the properties of a page. So if I click on, you can give a title, you can add, you can categorize this page into any keywords or tags. Like this can be like, say for example, if this page is related to certain category, you can add those tags here. And there are a lot of other properties of a page. So those, all the properties of the page can be handled here. And also you can have other operations like copying a page, moving a page, deleting, activating. So activating is when this page is ready, the author can click on activate. So that from our yesterday's diagram, so from author, the content would go and sit in publish server. And publish server contains only content or pages which are ready for the end user to view. Okay, so like this, there are a lot of other options here. And then you have the permissioning or yeah. So basically, if you want to know some details about the page, you can say, for example, I want to check the audit log. So in a real-time production server, there would be 10 authors. So there would be a manager who would kind of be looking into how the content is being managed, right? So for that person, he can just go here, and or for any other person in normal, I mean in general, so they can kind of go and see what all, what is the history of this page, what was done by which user, like this page was modified, right? So modified, created, and things like that would be displayed here, the history of what has been done to the page. And then permissions as well. So if you click on permissions here, and for any user, like the administrator, I'm currently logged in as an admin, right? So for admin, I have all the privileges here: read, write, modify, and things like that. So if I want to, I as an admin, if I want to give permissions, I can just go to that particular user, like say for example John. So I can allow, deny, and give all sorts of permission. But permission is a different concept altogether. So generally the authors are not the ones who would be handling all the permission. So the author, even though the author opens up this page in real-time projects, the administrators would have restricted the authors from looking at other people's permissions, or basically giving and taking the permissions would not be in the hands of the authors. Okay, the fourth tab is another important tab called as versioning. So as and when a lot of people work on this particular home page, say for example this particular home page, a lot of authors create content within this particular home page, so they'll have to maintain a version. So something like if they don't want that particular version, they can revert back to a new version. So versions are created automatically, or you can create the version manually. So whenever you click on activate a new version would be, a page version would be created. So when do authors generally click on activate? That is when they make some changes and they want that page to go live, they would click on activate. So on click of activate, automatically a version would be created, or manually I can create some version. Let's say I create a version. So version 1.0 created. And if I go and delete this image, or if I add some text component here, let's say I add some text component here and I enter some text, and now, so this is one step, right? One step, I mean I just added one step extra. But if in real time, there would be a lot of other authors working and there would be a lot of steps added. So let's say all of a sudden I don't want, okay, so now I want to revert this page to version 1. Just go to so yeah, the content whatever would be created, that would be that would be vanished, and whatever was there in the previous version, only that content would be there within the page.
Okay, cool.
Okay, okay, cool. So the sidekick is a floating element here, so it can be dragged and dropped wherever you want to place it across the screen. And also another important thing to notice is that you have three different views. So the first view is the editor view. So here we are currently in editor view, which means that the author can edit things like that. I mean things within the pages, the components within the page here. And the second view is the preview view. So this particular preview mode, when the author clicks on the preview mode, if you see here, apart from this content finder, you can also minimize the content finder, and then you can go to the preview mode and then pull this sidekick somewhere here, and then this is how the website looks for the end user. So that's the, I mean, the reason for the name, so basically the preview mode, as the name tells, it is used to check how your site looks to the end user. So it's kind of a preview mode view. Okay, so here if you see, once you go into preview mode, you cannot edit anything. So if you click right click, you don't get all those options to edit a particular section of a page. So how do I come back to the edit mode? Just click on the this button, this drop down here. So automatically it will go to edit mode. And there's also another view or a mode which is called as the design mode here. So when I click on the design mode, it goes into another mode where this particular mode is used by the advanced users. So let's say you want to add some more, you want to add another list of components here. So the advanced author user would go into design mode and he would edit something called as a paragraph, and then he will be able to add. So basically all the components created within CQ5 would be here, and these are all different groups. So he can add another group or another component create. So basically this design mode or design view is for advanced user. And also there is another purpose of design view. So whenever, I think in the next week, there is a exercise related to something called as design dialog, and there you will learn more in detail about the design view. So for now, let's consider this design mode for author user. Let's say only the advanced authors will use the design mode, and we have the edit and the preview mode. Okay, so now coming to the main part. So we went through content finder, we went through the Sidekick, and the main part is the edit area. That is the editor. What you see is what you get. Editor, the WYSIWYG editor, right? So here, if you're observing, wherever I hover the pointer or the mouse, it has this green color boundary, right? So it suggests that that is a separate component or a section. So if I just hover on something, I mean, I'm not clicking or doing anything, I'm just hovering or just pointing on this particular section of the screen. So automatically the boundary is appearing here. So similarly, if you see, it means that you can edit that particular section. So if I want to edit this particular section, I just hover on it and then I right click and then click on edit. So the moment I click on edit, the next screen which pops up here is called as the dialog. So in CQ we call this as a dialog, and dialog is used to capture the input from the author. Like you can have a form within the dialog, and generally what are the elements available within a form? Like say for example you want to register to Gmail or Facebook. So it'll ask you your first name, your last name, date of birth, and things like that. So to capture those information, you require a text field, a text area field. So there are a lot of other fields like a combo box. If you want to, like say for example, if you're giving an input of, like say you want to ask the person entering the form his residence, right? His country. So you provide a drop down and then you capture like India, Australia, US, and things like that, right? So like that you can create a form within this dialog, and each field here within the dialog, in general you can call it as a field, or if you want to be more technical, it is called as a CQ5 widget. So let me just put it down here. So whenever you edit a component, what is it that you see? You see a dialog, and the dialog can have, so a dialog can have multiple tabs as well. So here you see the lead tab. So you can have multiple tabs, and within the tab, it will have form elements. And these form elements are basically called as, like, it can be a text field, a combo box, a radio button, a checkbox, and things like that, right? So this particular form or elements are called as widgets or X types. So these are all terminologies which I would be using a lot in the future. So I mean, you will also be you'll also get used to it once we proceed towards the other exercises. So whenever you edit any component, you would get a dialog. Within the dialog, you can have multiple tabs, and within the tab, you can have fields, and each field is called as a widget. And those fields can be of type text field, text area. And if you see here, we have something called as a select field. There are a lot of other fields provided by CQ. And there is also an image field where the author can change a particular image. So this accepts image as an input. So this is the image field. Okay. So like this, the author uses the editor to change the content. And it is your job as a CQ developer when you create a component. Let's say you have created a component called as title paragraph component. When the author edits the component, it's your job to create this form for the author so that he can enter in the title and then he can enter the text. And you would be capturing, so this would be 50% of your job whenever you are working on any AEM projects. 50 to 60% of your job would be creating dialogues and then fetching the value entered by the author and then displaying it according to the style provided by the front end team. So the front end team would provide you some markups. So using that markup, HTML markup, you would dynamically collect the values and then insert it into the page. So that is what you would be doing as a CQ developer. So we'll be creating a lot of components so you'll understand how things work and how the dots are connected. Okay. So yeah, another important thing is, where does the author drag and drop the component? So he just cannot drag and drop in any space here, right? The author should only drag and drop a component in this dotted rectangle. So he can drag and drop the components here in these dotted squares or rectangles, right? So this rectangle is called as paragraph system. It is called as a paragraph system, or it is called as a parses. In short, it is called as parses. So here is where the author is allowed to drag and drop the component. Okay, so he can drag and drop a component. He can go to the newly dragged and dropped component, right click, edit, and then he can enter the text here. And that text would be displayed on the web page. Okay, so this acts as a container to the other components, and this container is called as paragraph system or parses. So these are some of the terminologies which we'll be using. So where are all the components dragged and dropped? It is on a parses, which is also called as a paragraph system. Okay, so any doubts or any questions till now? Okay, so now that we have seen the classic UI, so now you can, it's pretty much easy for you to go back to the modern UI. So if I want to open this page in the modern UI or touch UI, so all I have to do is just replace the CF hash with editor.html. So this screen, what is the reason of creating this screen? It is mostly used, it is touch optimized, where the authors, if they have a tablet and they want to edit a page in the tablet, So this screen is more suitable. The modern UI is more suitable for touch devices, touch enabled devices. So here it doesn't have a sidekick. If you see, there is no sidekick. Rather, it has something called as it has the content finder. This content finder also has the components. So the list of components are all present within the content finder. Within the assets, you can find all the content and images. And within the components, you can find all the components created by the AEM developer. And the page properties like activate, deactivate, and all those are present here within this particular button. And where are the views? So here you have the views, like you can go to edit mode, design mode, and then there's preview mode. So if I click on preview mode, if you see, there is no, there's no option to edit. So let's go back to the edit mode. And how do I edit? So to edit, here there is no green rectangle boundary. Rather, there is a very light blue color boundary if you observe wherever I go. Wherever I hover, there is this. So just click on that, you will get these options. And then you need to select the setting option, which will open up the touch UI dialog. And here it's the same form where you will enter all the details, and then that would be again shown on the page. So all the author's input would be captured in the dialog. And when the author clicks on OK, that particular page or image or whatever content would be displayed onto the web page. So this is the this is the only difference between the classic UI and the modern UI. Okay, so now since we are pretty much in a good shape of understanding what are all the aspects and how do you kind of edit a page. So now let's understand the concept of template, components, and pages. Okay, so whenever as an author, whenever you want to create a page, you cannot directly create a page. You just cannot create a page like without having a template. So you need to have a template to create a page. And what is template? So template is a predefined set of, it's a predefined layout of a page. Like say for example, so whenever you create a page, will it be totally blank? No. So whenever the author creates a page using a template, it would take the shape of the template. Like the template can be something like this. So this is a template, and the template can have, so generally if you have a website, you would need a header for your website, a footer for your website, and all the web pages. So if you have a website which has 1,000 pages, all the 1,000 pages would have the same header and same footer, right? So this template which we are creating will have a header, a footer, and the middle area here can be the layout of the page, like this. So here you can have some components dragged and dropped, and here you can have the main area where the author can drag and drop